Hi all, welcome to Research PhD for All. In this introductory video, I want to briefly discuss what this channel is all about. I have created this channel to bring academic research to the general audience from kids to adults. I did this because I think academic research is a bit elitist and closed off to the general audience. A lot of it is done and consumed by researchers with at least a PhD, people in think tanks, maybe a few journalists. While there are advantages to having trained and responsible people take on these challenging endeavors, I think there is a lot to unlock if the information can be dissipated among the public. If you are a motivated high schooler, you can learn about things. If you're a college student working on a BS, these things can be used in your college work. If you are working in the industry, I think it can be especially beneficial if you learn about the ways to answer different questions. Even if you're a retiree working in consulting or for your own knowledge, this can help you understand some topics that may be a bit formal while reading the paper. Retirees or older age group being knowledgeable about science is especially good for the society because the voter turnout, which is generally considered to be a bedrock of democracy and also a big predictor of eventual legislation and policies, is high among that age group. And that's something you can see from the data from census on your screen. There is a process to working on research and getting it published, and I am not planning to start with trying to discuss the entire publication process, but let me take some time to basically draw a picture of how the education system works to train and lead you into academic research. Starting with K-12. Of course, K-12 is just basics of how the world works from the perspective of different subjects. It's basically a mental model to understand the world around us in parts. Then you get into undergraduate level, where you start to specialize on a very basic level. You choose majors that determine the classes you take and the topics you cover, but now you are not required to study everything the way you did it in K-12. For example, you had to study biology, physics, chemistry, math, social science, literature, everything in K-12. But if you major in bio, you mostly take bio-related courses in undergrad. They train you for bio-related careers. Next is graduate level programs. If you continue into your master's, you are taught your choice of major at a much higher level. Basically, close to everything there is available in that field, but not exactly everything. Some that's left is covered in PhD. In fact, there are a few classes that share both master's and PhD students, but master's doesn't exactly force you towards academic research. Master's is good to test the waters, to basically figure out whether a higher level of studies or a terminal degree is worth it to you because you do get some exposure into academic research. Lastly, on to PhD, which stands for Doctorate of Philosophy. It's a terminal degree. That is, there is nothing more to study in a field. PhDs are designed to take anywhere between 4 to 7 years, sometimes even more. Rarely less, sometimes more. It is a commitment. The way the degree is designed is you take the highest level of courses in your first year. For the most part, the first year courses are broad and applicable to many subfields within a subject. This is usually followed by some kind of qualifying test. Sometimes you pick qualifiers based on your field of interest. Then in your second year, you start taking field courses. In many cases, you select the second year courses on what subfield you want to specialize in because second year courses are paired with a lot of research related work. That is, you get trained on how to conduct research formally starting in the second year. By formally, I mean as part of your curriculum. You get taught to read papers, write them, and learn the techniques towards research. The technique here, I think, is one of the most important skills that you learn as a PhD. I think these techniques can be used to answer questions in areas outside of academia, and eventually, I want this channel to focus on techniques. I'm expecting a large group of audience to just take the results and go on about their lives. However, I'm hoping to capture some who would like to learn the techniques and apply them towards their own questions in life or work. This is the kind of democratization I am expecting to bring about from this channel. I think if you can democratize techniques, our innovation rate will increase immensely. While the aforementioned summary about the education system describe how the system works, they are only generic. If there ever comes a point where I need to elaborate on the education system or some parts of what I just talked about, I will do that later. I also want to talk about why learning academic research is important through my perspective on the flow of knowledge. You see, new information is created through research. It could be in the academia or industry. So only the people that follow research are at the frontier of human innovation. Take, for example, things like CRISPR and whatnot was done through academic research. Once profit potential was realized, industry took over, and now a good chunk of work is being done in the industry. Pharmaceutical industry is another good example where a fair bit of research is actually being done. Anything outside of this is not the frontier of innovation. This new information comes out in academic papers, in working papers like those in ArcXIV, to publish to academic journals with peer review process. After the information is verified over time through support from many other papers, only then the information flows into a book. And most information takes years to make it into a textbook. There are some exceptions to some book writers publishing new information in their own book, but those books rarely have rigorous analysis and do not pass through peer reviews. Things like biography or political situations, etc., do not teach you much technical skills. Not that they are not important in their own ways, but textbooks that are used in your undergrad classes rarely have newest data, and some of it is because of just the way the publication timeline works as well. The point here is that to be at the frontier of knowledge, the frontier of humanities work, it is important to keep up with academic research. For most people that are without a PhD, which is most of the world's population, this might be daunting and overwhelming. And that is where this channel will fit in. At least that is my hope and expectation. I focus on this because learning, I think, is one of the most important characteristics as a human. I think what puts humans above all other animals is that we get to start with all the knowledge that was accumulated before us. Take, for example, a tiger, which is a fierce predator, definitely larger than a human, can take out any human in a one-on-one combat. Still, we humans have easily dominated them, keep them in zoos, hunted them through time, and the difference is because each newborn tiger more or less starts from scratch, learning how to eat, hunt, move, and the basics. However, we humans get to start with all the knowledge of all the humans that have existed before us, which gives us a huge advantage. We get to use guns or the technology that was developed centuries ago. So in our role, we try to improve on everything that was done before us, putting us even more ahead of the tiger. The poor tiger, however, does not get to improve the hunting skills of its ancestor. It lives with its own skills and dies, and its skills dies with it. As an additional note, I will admit being able to communicate has a lot to do here too, along with records keeping, institution, etc. But even these skills, such as communication, records, etc., can be improved upon as we learn more about how best to use it. Even the communication skills are taught to us. Imagine having to create a new communication technique for every generation, that would put a huge drag on our ability to innovate. This makes learning an integral part of humanity. Lastly, another reason I started this channel is because of the current state of the world. I feel like the short attention span is becoming a problem for learning, and a lot of things we see in the media and read about on the social platforms are leading to something I like to call a hot take economy. In a hot take economy, only the title of the article matters, something akin to clickbait here. People don't really take the time to learn fully about the mechanics of the situation, and I think it's important that everybody learn the full picture, not just a title or something provocative. Just reading the title, in my opinion, leads to a hollow sense of expertise where you do not really understand everything about the scenario, but you know a little bit to brag about your knowledge. And I think in the long run, that may be devastating to innovation. That is why in this channel, I plan to serve you the full story behind the research, not just a title or something cute to have a hot take about. Again, I also want to admit that I'm not claiming that just one paper is enough for you to be an expert in a field, but I believe continually learning papers, maybe one at a time, is a step in the right direction to build an expertise over time. Let me also talk a little bit about me. I do have a PhD in a technical social science field. I do not come from high pedigree. I believe the publication process is somewhat controlled by the hand-ranking schools, so I do want to do my part to democratize the information. I have an active research portfolio. I will mostly focus on papers and techniques in the fields that I know well about, but will try my best to cover all the fields that may be interesting or important. And I will provide more information about me sometime in the future. I chose to do this because learning is a part of my passion and hobby. In my free time, I like to learn, and YouTube has helped me learn about so many things I always wanted to know and keep up with, that I want to do my part to give back. So hopefully you will like the content in the videos and come along with me in this learning journey. Please like and subscribe if you like the content and want to keep up with my future videos. I am looking to produce paper summaries on a weekly basis, depending on my schedule. I would also urge you to engage with the content with comments, constructive preferably. Unless you find an error, please do note them if you find an error. I will add credits and info about the researchers along with the video and video notes. Please refrain from attacking the researcher personally and instead keep the discussion about the work, no matter how much the research may be against your beliefs. For example, you may work in the XYZ industry and you don't like a research that says about negative consequences of the products from that industry. Please stick to criticizing the work and not attacking the people personally. And I will add ways to contact me and other engagement details or ways to support the channel in the channel notes or video notes. I am stoked to help everyone learn about academic research and help decorate everybody with a PhD, or at least a YouTube equivalent of it. That's where the name comes, the Research PhD for All. Lastly, to wrap the video, a quick disclaimer. The video is for information purposes only. This is not a legal advice or advice in professional capacity. I am not affiliated with the authors or the organization producing research or the journals. This is my interpretation of the paper. Depending on the context, there may be laws around necessary licenses or training or permissions required to conduct the research. There's always more to a research than what's written on the published paper. I am only trying to interpret what's provided in the published paper. There may be nuances behind this research that may not be explicit while reading the published version. Things do get cut and edited during the peer review process, so caution is advised.